they are good to go. Caleb says go, go. Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins. Let's hope he doesn't Leroy Jenkins and just A-move his army onto creep, because there's still a few infestors in there with energy. He did EMP most of them, but there's still 3 fungals in there, because that's a lot of infestors, man. That's 8 infestors. He loves his fungal growth. Really punishing, you know, if you land that fungal on this army. I remember in early Legacy, I used to play this sometimes like without infestors at all. I'd just phase them out. Excuse me. Which is why I'd always need to have a good amount of Ling Bane on the ground to roll over ghosts. Because if you don't have fungal, you need that. But I really think fungal is such a great way of doing it. And okay, it looks like Caleb's just going to roll on in here. Oh, that fungal on the medis. Oh, my turn heart. Zerg, Imba. So he still ended up just losing his whole army. At this point. Which kind of sucks. Sucks for him a little bit. Get a few ultras on the retreat. He's still got more mining and everything, but oof, that was a tough fight there. Definitely, I think, just caught slightly unprepared for that battle. Maybe the fungal was massive. Now he's only got 3 medevacs, and he's having to build more medevacs, and accidental banshee on the way as well. I think it's accidental anyway. You wouldn't really want to build a banshee against that many queens and corruptors. I do think a 6th base is quite important. It's good that he is going for that, just simply because he's got such a sick SCV count. Like, the problem as the game goes on, he should probably transfer some SCVs down there, actually. Oh, wow, he's going to get queens. That's big, that's big. If you can get rid of these energy units, it's so good, but 3 of them survive on red hit points. JHeffe may be going a bit too deep, though. I think, if he loses these ghosts, that's huge. Ooh, still stutter stepping. Actually doing a pretty good job with it, but now the Baneling's almost on top of those ghosts, and friendly Marauder just walking alongside those Ultralisks as they gallop home. I don't know if you'd say an Ultralisk gallops. What does an Ultralisk do? They rumble. I think that's what you call an Ultralisk when it moves. These Ultralisks rumbling along. That's a rumble. That's got to be a rumble, right? Yeah. Ghosts or libs first, people are asking in chat. I think libs. I actually don't even go ghost. Most of the time I just try to win with bio, lib, multi-prong, and kind of keeping the tempo up. Because it makes my life easier, and it keeps the pace of the game very quick. I've seen innovation just say pure bio and just be like, no, I'm killing you on this. I'm not going to give you, like... Because teching up gives you more time, and it gives you time to get more things, like infestors and broodlords, and add those extra things to your army. And the more of those things you have, then the more careful I need to be in my engagements, then I need to slow everything down even more. So I think often as the Terran player, yeah, you want to just slow that down. And oh god, 3/3 cracklings in the natural on top of the rally point. That is massive. Good denial on the base here by JHeffe, but this Zergling count is doing big damage, man. He had 2 walls to buy him time, but he just didn't reset that rally point far enough back, and he's taking too much damage here. Yeah. Oh no, JHeffe, you know, he's so good when he's dictating the pace of it, but Caleb's so good at just absorbing. Then he throws the counterattack in from behind and just rips JHeffe apart. Looks like Caleb here on Gettysburg has been the stronger player. To be fair, I did say from the start, this is a Zerg-favored map. I do kind of wish we played Galactic. I don't feel like Galactic is grossly Terran-favored, even though a lot of people have been saying that lately. Who knows? Maybe if you're playing TY or something it is, but... I don't really see that. It looks here though, just the counters are doing a good job. Good snipes, but only actually finishes off one of the corruptors, because those corruptors do always survive a snipe with just a little bit of life. You gotta remember, snipe does good damage, but it's 170 ignoring arm. It leaves them on 30 hit points. Finally cleaning up his reinforcement point, but it's been too long down there, man. Way too much damage taken. He's down 4,000, 5,000 resources lost, and there's still a Zergling in his base. Oh. Struggling, man. Struggle street. 14 ghosts are out. Only 3 liberators, though. You really want to have about 10 liberators at least, in my opinion. Friendly Marauder goes in. Almost gets himself an Ultralisk. Not quite. This bunch of slightly odd-looking Marines just standing around. And the Marine's like, what the frack? Oh, no. Yeah, I can't go out there without libs, man. This like back and forth micro, it's so ballsy, and it can kind of work, especially because there's no Ling Bane, but I mean, yeah, I think it's like a little bit A little bit over eager from JHeffe. He just keeps taking these bad trades. I think Caleb's got this one in the bag, man. Yeah, GG's. He's just getting pushed back, but it's going to take like an hour to finish, so... GG, bad luck there, man.
Yeah, I'm just not taking the right engages tonight.
Yeah, well, you know what? I really want to watch that last one again with everyone. Let's start doing Q&A and kind of analyze the replays together. Sometimes you're just slightly off on those engages, and it is so fast-paced in ZvT. Like, you just... Oh, your units aren't fighting, or they're not pre-spread, or they're a bit clumped up. The fungal obviously landed on all your medevacs there and kind of just destroyed everything. So we're going to watch the replay. I'm going to tell Captain Caleb to get in here. Get on voice chat. That's all the game for today. Because you guys decided to play some friggin' insane games. GG's, well played, Caleb. I do not hear a Caleb.
Rip. Caleb.
Turn your mic on and off or something like that, man. Wait, 31-minute replay? This game didn't go for a full 10 minutes, did it? Or maybe it did. I don't know.
Hear me now?
Maybe. Oops. Say again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Got a little bit of Caleb in our lives. All right. Okay, cool, guys. So, interesting style. Since we've just got you on the call for the first time, Caleb, after the games, you like playing your creep spread, you like lots of queens, and you like not moving off creep, which is a very good way to play Zerg. You do play quite low economy and really fast tech in these early stages, though. So something I noticed was that, like, you know, you're very, very focused on, like, you just have to have enough units to shut everything down. You have really fast upgrades, really crazily fast hive. Is this like this sort of hive timing something you go for every game in ZvT? Is this your style, or do you mix it up a bit?
I think some of the low econ, or it's sort of sometimes if I feel like if I feel particularly aggressive on one day, I'll try and play more like True, where I'll stay on the 1/1 and 2/2 lings on layer and just try and counterattack all over, and focus less on the teching. But then on maps like this, where there's very few chokes and very few ways to counterattack, I usually just try and tech up super fast to ultra late game, because I feel like if Terran can get like or if Terran or Zerg for that matter can get like a significant tech like lead, they can siege for a really long time, and it's hard to not die during that siege. So like if I had stayed on layer for a long, or if I had stayed on Lib Bane Queen for a long time, and he gets up a bunch of Liberators with range and can kind of siege around this 4th and 5th area, it's super hard for me to come back from that. And in the same sense,
it's hard for you to counterattack as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, you did it really well, and you kind of just defended and got that tech advantage these games. This one though, this was the regame, right? The first game, he kind of overextended a bit. You got a little bit of more damage on the medevacs. He wasn't quite able to find as much damage, and he kind of overextended slightly into it, right? And that's kind of what you really would love the Terran player to do. But he actually has an economy advantage throughout this whole early phase, right? And it's very hard for the Terran to know this as well. This is like part of the strength of your style, is it's like, well, they need to attack into you to stop you just getting creep everywhere and to stop you getting hive. But you also kind of want them to attack into you because you've always got equal or better upgrades, and you've always got this big blob of queens constantly respreading creep. So it's very hard for a Terran player who doesn't realize, oh, your economy is actually not that high, or he doesn't realize, oh, your hive's actually that fast. And if he ever is just slightly inattentive with his units, bam, you just snap it. Now, this was the moment where things did fall apart for you. And this was just a little bit of inattention with those Zerglings. Of course, he actually could have stimmed in a few seconds earlier as well. But you do get your attention split there. You mess up a little bit with splitting your units, and you do lose 12 drones. And this was a really key moment, because from here, he's up 40-50 supply. You know, you're already playing a style where you're kind of accepting that you're going to be down in supply, but now suddenly you're in a really hard spot where it's like, oh god, how do you ever get up, you know, to even using your 4th base? what's interesting is because you play this such a tech-heavy style, you get to skip out on other expenditures, which Zerg players with Lingbane normally have to get, like a macro hatch. You don't really need it because you're just rushing up to the Ultralisk stage. By the time you start banking minerals, it's like, well, you're building Ultras, you don't need it. What are your thoughts from here? Was your mindset just like turtle, hang on, and try to come back into the game as like just by defending really well?
Basically, sometimes, actually, like my mindset kind of was just what ended up happening this game, where like I'll just try and hold on with what I can. I was on like 50-ish drones, I was on 60 drones. I'll just hold on and get out a few ultras. Then from there, I have so many queens that I can use the ultras to secure the 4th, and then maybe the 5th, and then go up to infestors and inspire and go from there. But then him like overextending here was the thing that had to happen for me to be able to do that, right? Where like I have to win this engagement at my 4th, or he's eventually just gonna like kill me before I can get up to where I can survive into the late game.
You snap a few medevacs there as well. Those queens with the like just insta snap on medevacs is crazy. Because that's actually really big, getting that medevac count down. As well as the Marines. I feel like the Marines trading for the Lingbane is completely fine. But I feel like because the medevac count goes down, you need to build a lot more medevacs. And I actually wanted your thoughts on this, JHeffe. Obviously, you've got more thoughts on this fight. What went wrong? Should you have pulled back? Was it actually an okay trade? But I also was thinking, well, first of all, let's talk about this fight, and then I'll ask the question later. So what did you think about this?
It went a little bit worse than I wanted it to. It's really hard to micro on this map at the 4th base, because if I ever want to get close to your 4th, I have to really be committed, like down this ramp. And
yeah.
I have this thing where like I have all my hotkey on 1, so I go down to attack move every time that I think the engage might be happening. But every time that I do that, I also have to respread it. And before the engagement, I don't think I spread it correctly, so he got a little bit better than I wanted.
Yeah.
Because right here, I just think he should have died. I'm hitting exactly at 2-2. Like, I think it was a good 5 seconds ago. These Widow Mines are also really badly or poorly spread. There's better spots for that. Like, I could put it right above the ramp or in that little nook right there.
Yeah, that's a really
locations.
beautiful one. So then when he engages, you're kind of spreading your units back, and you're almost guaranteed a great shot because the Lingbane's always going to clump around that corner, right?
Yep.
Yep. So Widow Mine there.
The part that bothers me the most is that there's pretty much no banelings here, yet I'm going to lose this engagement. Like, I have like 20 or 40 Marines here, and there's only 15 banelings.
Yeah.
So some really godlike bane hits happened that really shouldn't have.
Do you feel like rather than selecting the whole movie and army and the whole movie and the whole army and moving, do you think you should sometimes maybe just leave some of the units pre-spread and just kind of box the front half of your army and stim and move it?
That's what I should have been doing. Like, if the engage is seriously going to happen, I can grab my whole army because I need it in order to take this engagement better. Oh, and I also right-clicked on this medevac here, which always hurts. That's just 8 Marines out of the engagement immediately.
Yeah. That's actually really interesting, right? Because there's that big clump of Marines on the right-hand side which end up doing nothing this whole fight. Because they kind of run forward and then they run back. Whereas if you had the Widow Mines you talked about spread a bit more and you use this kind of whole... You're kind of trying to draw the Zerg up that ramp and to the right is like your ideal fighting location, because whenever you're up against a wall, in some regard, you're forcing the Zerg to kind of come around a choke point or around a wall, you're going to get those hits. But instead, yeah, 8 Marines loaded into the medevacs, and these other Marines just spend the whole fight spreading rather than shooting. And that's something else. Like, people go apeshit for crazy spreads, and they're great and they're important, but you'd rather have your Marines mostly already in a position where the spreading's mostly done, right? So you're actually gunning down units as well as being pre-spread, so the banelings are going to be inefficient.
Yep, exactly. And then the goal with this fight was to... I was checking to see if he F2'd at all, and he didn't, sadly. So I tried to focus that down there, and then I took that Bane hit because I missed with the focus fire.
Yep.
And right here, it just kind of fell apart. He got like a small foothold here.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of the end.
he managed to hang on, and yeah, I mean, let's fast forward now to that late game fight, and then I'll take questions from chat. Because I think that is the next one. Like, I don't think there was another bad trade until the late game. Let's. Your Widowmine positioning is not very good here again.
Exactly. And so now I have 0 Widowmines in this fight.
Yeah, and those Marines go too far forward. Yeah.
I don't know where my attention could actually be.
Sorry, everyone has these days where like sometimes you're just like, wait, why was I not looking at this? Like, this is the only thing I should be looking at. You watch the replay and you're just kind of shaking your head at yourself, like, why?
Exactly. Like, I should have actually been rally pushing at this point, like way before this.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of these fights, you look at the units, and I have 60 Marines and like 4 Widowmines and 8 Medevacs, and he's got 15 Banelings.
Yeah, like right now you have 45 Marines, 17 Marauders, 8 Medevacs, 6 Mines, versus 43 Zerglings, 4 Banelings. Like, I get Queens are good, but they're not that good. And
They are not.
I mean, this is the challenge of this map, is it is hard to get over there. It takes you forever to get over here, but definitely with how much you are dictating the pace of the game and keeping the pressure on. So rally pushing, controlling the pushes slightly differently. We saw here you kept doing that pull the whole army back, pull the whole army forward. Pull the whole army back, pull the whole army forward a little bit too much, and that Widowmine spread as well. Those 2 Widowmines on the far right there, yeah. So.
But I was really happy when this drop got through.
Oh yeah, that one did big damage as well. You got another like 12, 13 drones there.
Yeah, it's 28 drones this game.
It got up to about 65 or 70 in the later stages as well.
Really?
One of the things, yeah, once the momentum started shifting, maybe not in this run through, but the previous run through. Yeah, is you stop dropping and sending Liberators as much once the Nidus Worms get on top. And that's like the biggest thing with the Nidus Worms, is even when it doesn't do that much direct damage, the Terran just like doesn't have the APM and the units to like defend the Nidus and do a lot of drops and Liberator harassment anymore. And that's usually when things really shift in the Zerg's favor. So I'm going to fast forward through to the point where we saw that big late game engagement. That's some really interesting mid game stuff. Let's answer a few of these questions from chat, see if there's any actual serious ones for once. Oh, we've got a few really good quality ones. Yeah, they're definitely not all just talking about Ultralisks. Can you ask Blizzard if they can make the select all army key unclickable? Yeah, that's a very relevant question. Totes. How can I elevate my game of whining about Ultras to David Kim in order to get them nerfed? Says Splendor. So that one's for you, of course, JHeffe.
Well, there's a beautiful unit known as the Liberator. I believe you should use it.
Wow. Not even supporting the David Kim one. You're clearly not a true Terran player. One other thing I want to mention. What about air upgrades? You never got air upgrades in these games. Is that something you just forgot about, or do you feel they're not that worthwhile?
If anything, I think armor would be more important, especially versus a style like this.
Yep.
Because let's say like I have +1 armor, that's good for my Medevacs, especially versus Caleb, because he gets all those queens and he wants to focus down my Medevacs.
Yeah.
So now in these engagements, it's a lot harder for him to focus down a Medevac.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I didn't think about that, because like I was thinking more for the Liberators in the late game, where like against Corruptors, obviously, and so on. But it does make a big difference, because Queens have 2 attacks. So if you get, say, +2 armor on Medevacs or Liberators, even if they're set up in Queen range, the Queens are going to be doing like 4 damage a volley. It's like 4 damage, 4 damage, 4 damage. So they're going to become drastically less effective unless they actually invest in range upgrades.
But I do think that I needed at least +2 on my Liberators. Because I think that's the point where it starts to 2-shot Queens. And also 2-shot... Yeah, 2-shot Queens is the most important there. Because I don't think there's any real reason to get +3 other than if you have like 40 Liberators versus Corruptors. Yeah. But that isn't too realistic.
That's how I play my pleb level TVZs in late game. I'm just like, I'm not going to use ghosts properly. They're just going to get fungled and have banelings roll into them. I just like make like 30 libs and like spread them across 3 screens and wait for my opponent to clump up their Corruptors and then A move, and people get salty. And that's why I don't show my Terran play as any serious example of anything, because my TVZ late game is utter trash. So it was a pleasure to watch someone who actually knows how to use Ghosts and Liberators properly for once. Okay, cool. So air upgrades do come in. They do help a lot. While we watch this, let's look at these questions.
Here?
Yep.
So, looking at that, I kept doing that all army A move thing. When in reality, what it should be is I should be completely spread out. My ghosts need to be in like a real in these key spots. Like on every map, there are these key spots where you keep specific units. Yeah. Like earlier, we were talking about how the Widow Mines needed to be in specific spots. Well, your ghosts need to be in specific spots too. They want to be in really obnoxious parts for the Zergs to get to. So places like a little bit behind the Liberators, but right above the ramp, so they have to go above a ramp to see your ghost.
Yeah.
For example, all those ledges on Galactic Process are really obnoxious for the Zerg to deal with. And late game TVZ can be a lot like late game TVP in HOTS. Whereas if you get those really good EMPs off on the Infestors and the Queens, it's very bad for that Zerg player.
Oh yeah. Awesome, that's some really good info. A question here from Turgid Leafman. He says, I'd like to ask JHeffe how he hotkeys his army. When he's got MMM, Mines, Ghosts, Vikings, and Libs. Yep.
I apologize, but you cut out there for me.
Oh, no worries, man. Turgid Leaf says, I'd like to ask JHeffe how he hotkeys his army when he's at Marine, Marauder, Medevac, Mines, Ghosts, Vikings, Liberators. I often struggle with my mechanics in a maxed out battle.
Yeah, this is definitely pretty much the hardest control to do in the game. The way that I split it up is I always split everything between 3 hotkeys in all matchups. But for TVZ in the mid game and early game, I'll generally just keep my main army on 1, my Widow Mines are on 2, and extra drops or anything extra that I need is 3. But as I transition into late game, I put my Ghost on 2 and my Air on 3.
Ghost on 2, Air on 3. Okay, cool, that makes perfect sense. And do you ever have a 4th army hotkey, or you always keep it to 3?
It's always 3.
Question, do you use the steal command to take units out of control groups?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I use this really weird version of the core, and I'm not sure how it would fit into my hotkey setup.
I use the core as well, actually, and I use an experimental one, the core plus that isn't released. But I actually just have my regular create and steal ones, create and shift overridden. Like I actually don't have a control and shift. What would normally be my control and shift, like so those buttons just do the steal commands. So every time I control group anything, I'm stealing it because I never have overlapping hotkeys, and that just made it like super easy for me to learn. That's just how I like to do it. But it definitely, you know, it's definitely something which is really cool if you can be bothered to add it in. It takes a little bit of getting used to if you don't do it my way and you use like the alt keys or whatever the hell the equivalent of an alt key would be with the core. I don't know. But I think with the latest version of the core, Jack Attack actually like built it in as well so that it overrides the regular hotkeys, or it overrides one of them. I think like you can still add to a control group and it won't be stealing, but when you create a control group fresh, it will steal. Something like that. Anyway, that's its own tangent. So that's cool to know that you have Marine, Marauder, Mine, your main kind of meaty army on 1. You've got your Ghosts on 2 and your Viking Lib and Air units on 3.
Oh, wait a minute. I lied.
Yep.
I can also keep my Ghost on 1.
Oh, okay, so they overlap. So they're on 2 and they're on 1.
Yes.
Do you have to tab to stim your bio sometimes when it prioritizes the Ghosts?
I tab every single time.
Okay, so you just like practice. Every time you select one, you're like tab, stim, stutter, press 2, snipe, snipe, snipe. Or sometimes I guess you snipe off the 1 hotkey by reselecting it as well, maybe. But then sometimes you need to individually pull your ghosts forward or back, and that's when you use that number 2 hotkey.
Yes.
Cool. Alright, Terran Imbus says, Pig, what's the correct response to me as a... the Protoss question. Okay, I'll answer it, Chris. As a Protoss player to this heavy Queen style that Zergs use as a stepping stone to Ultras, as Protoss, you're not really worried about Ultras because you have Immortals. So if they're just turtling with Queens, the thing is Protoss has the best late game. So just build a lot of Immortals and Archons and then go kill them. If they go Broodlords as well, you can go things like Void Rays or Tempests in the mix, but generally just kill them with a lot of Immortals and Archons. You'll You'll have no trouble against this style. Terran don't have any immortal-like unit, which is why they struggle so much against the Ultras. They need the Ghosts and Liberators to deal with it, and the Ghosts and Liberators are very fragile units, so it's a very different scenario. The control group stealing was relevant. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. Splendor says, should you use your snipes on Ultralisks or Infestors? So lots of questions for JHeffe. No one wants to hear about your turtling Queen Broodlord Ultra, Caleb. I'm sorry.
The evil Zed. But what was the question? It was
snipes on Ultras or Infestors. What do you prioritize?
At the start of every single engagement, your #1 priority should be to EMP all of the Infestors. And depending on the situation, you may even want to EMP the Queens too. But after that, you really want to start sniping down all of those Ultralisk. But generally, in your army, you have so many Marauders in your late game comp that you can stutter a little bit and you just kind of melt away at those Ultralisk over time.
Yeah, I guess especially if you've got libs set up overhead, like depending on the engagement, sometimes they'll go down very fast. So that's cool. Focus on EMPing the Infestors and as #1, and obviously sniping the Ultras after that to actually kill the unit that's going to do damage to you. Seems logical.
But yeah, at this point in the game,
sorry, continue.
I just think that on this map, like Gettysburg is such a whoever gets the very major advantage in the late game is very, very favored in my mind, because it's so hard for either side to really start getting going on the opponent's side of the map whenever you get ahead, or behind rather. The person that's behind is really stuck in a spot until the other makes a very major mistake. And Caleb was just playing it out very smart by spreading his creep and gave me no real option to get back into the game.
Okay, cool. There was a question about... Sorry, were you finished?
Oh, yes, I was.
Sorry, man. There's always a little bit of delay cross-continent. Even on Discord, on Skype, it's like triple the delay. Skype's an amazing application which no one should ever use. But so for Caleb, Caleb's actually in chat already answering questions, which is cool. So the guy was asking you about 1-1, and you actually already answered that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Normally it's about a 4-minute double evo with your build, but the thing is, like, you want to play to your level. Like, you don't. Yeah, you want to do things like in order of like after you get your other stuff up. So I like the way you answered that. Yeah. Whereas like me, I'm always like, oh yeah, like 4-minute evo chambers, because that's how I think about it for my own play. But that's because like I know I'm gonna do things like to a reasonably high level, so I can time it out like that. But that's actually a really good answer there. So you were saying, you just get the 1-1 upgrades after. What did you say? It was.
Oh, it just times out with the gas for me. Like at 170 gas after you get link speed and then OV speed.
Okay, that's beautiful.
It's a weird way to describe it, but yeah, that's basically how it times out or whatever.
Okay. So two questions for Caleb to finish things off. Number 1, how do you control your army? So late game stage, what are your hotkeys and what are you focusing on?
Okay, so I have a hotkey for my queens, so all of my army except for the infestors and vipers, if I have them, are in the main army control group, which is on 1. Mm-hmm. Then my infestors or broodlords, depending on if I have infestors, the infestors are on 2, and if I don't, then the broodlords are on 2. And then if I have vipers, the vipers are on 3, and if I don't have vipers, then the broodlords are on 3. Then I have a separate hotkey for my queens, which is on my mouse. And then I have another hotkey for my corruptors. And the biggest thing there, I think, in late game Zerg Terran is you want to have, like when you're approaching like a sieged up Terran army, you want to be able to control specifically the infestors, the broodlords, and the corruptors. In my opinion, at least the most, because you want to like move the broodlords forward with like one infestor under them to threaten the ghosts. Yep. So that you force the ghosts back a little bit, and then your corruptors can go in and try and push the liberators out of siege mode. And then you can move in with your queens to transfuse if they try to engage, or if they back up, you can just move your whole army forward and spread creep and all that good stuff.
That's awesome. I love that hotkey setup, and I love that explanation as well, because that I used to play, like I was saying to the stream while I was commentating the games, how this is like how I used to play a lot in early Legacy, except with a lot more Viper focus, because everyone was going like super heavy libs to counter it, because that was when libs did much better against corruptors, and parasitic bomb was also stronger. So, but it was otherwise exactly the same. And what I found, and something I get really anal about, even when I'm watching like Dark or someone play this same composition, is no one hotkeys the Broodlords separately. But I like that you actually said you do if you don't have Vipers out, when you've got the spare hotkey for it. Because I feel with that poking forward and back, and you know how you can stutter step them so they get like an extra 2 or 3 range? Because like their shot has a delay on it. So you need to like go into range kind of on the edge of their range for like barely a second, and then you can pull back like 3 spaces and then move in and out without ever really shooting at what their technical maximum range is. I remember realizing that that was like a really cool little addition I could do, but for the most part, like that's it, right? There's this complicated dance of Broodlords at the front. You've got 1 or 2 infestors trying to stop the ghosts from just running forward and sniping them, because then you'll fungal them and the ghosts will die, but you don't want too many infestors forward, because then they'll EMP your infestors. So you've got this like back and forth where you're both kind of picking at each other. And that's why, to like the inexperienced eye, this just looks like a silly stalemate, right? You're both just sitting there. But the real focus ends up on the harassment. We've seen this when Dark is playing against Maru or some crazy good Terran versus Zerg where it goes to late game. It's all about this later stage where you're both just trying not to overextend into each other. Because if you just A-move, you're going to get wrecked. They're going to land the snipes. They're going to land the EMPs. If they move into you, you're going to land the fungals. You're going to like have the pre-spread air units and everything. So you're always trying to distract them with those multi-prongs, and then trying to like use that, I guess, to get small economic advantages, and also to split their attention so that you can find these avenues. And I really liked it how whenever he was dropping you or sending a Liberator, he would come forward. JHeffe would come through from on the front and snipe some units or EMP some units while you're distracted. And every time you distracted him with Zerglings, you'd kind of poke in and pick off a ghost or 2 with the Broodlords or the Corruptors. And that was just really sick to see, this kind of complicated dance that you were both in. So I think there was one more question for you, but anything else on that topic, or does that about cover it now?
I can just add, when you add in Vipers, like the only situation where I think adding in Vipers is appropriate is where like on Dust Towers there would be a lot of matches that like especially Scarlet would play, where you would split the map down the middle, and both Zerg and Terran would add like static D, and I think that's where Vipers are worth getting, when you have to like pull, like where the infestors aren't going to do anything to advance your position in the middle of the map, lots of static D and stuff, so you need the Vipers to pull and like allow the rest of your units to kill their static D and stuff. But yeah, that's why I didn't make Vipers this game.
That's a really good explanation. By the way, didn't your parents ever teach you, didn't your dad ever teach you, never stop midstream? And look at that, the Corruptors just... Gosh. Come on, man. I was like getting so excited. I was like, I love watching planetaries die to mass Corruptor spray, and then you just stopped. I was like, oh. So sad.
Never cross the streams.
Always cross the streams. It doesn't matter. It's fine, man. The Ghostbusters were wrong. Are there any... Okay, so there's another question which we kind of touched on, which, you know, how do you finish the game once Ultras are out? Because this has been going for a long time, I do want to kind of drag that to an end. So I would say, he says, do you need to go Broodlords and play it this slow? I mean, my opinion, and I'd like to hear yours as well, Caleb, quickly, is I think you can usually win, especially not at the highest levels, just with Ultra Corruptor Ling Bane. But because you're on the back foot in this game, and also because it's this map, you were playing just very carefully, very slow, right? Yeah. In the first game, you were just playing very slow. In the later game, you were like playing it slow out of necessity because you were behind in bank and resources. Like you couldn't afford to take one bad trade. But if you were like up at 85 workers or something in this mid game, and you know you felt like you were ahead on tech, he doesn't have Ghost Live out yet. Like you can just keep denying the 4th and 5th of the Terran and win that way, right?
Yep. Yeah. I also think it's super map dependent, where on this map, there's kind of one main choke you can realistically push up. And so it allows both like Zerg and Terran to play super defensively, where it's super hard to break either person, right? Where it was super hard for either of us to break the other one. Whereas on a map like Frost, even has a pretty wide middle area, and it has really hard to take fifth base. But like also where on Apotheosis, where there's all these different chokes, where you can push with multiple armies and stuff. It's super hard to defend all those positions, where I don't think I would even make Brood Lords on Apotheosis unless I was in some ultra defensive position, just because it's so easy to attack in all these different angles and stuff. But yeah.
I can definitely get behind that, yeah. You go Brood Lords on that map and it's like you're just going to get picked apart most of the time. So, awesome. Are there any key positions for Zerg analogous to the Mine Ghost positions JHeffe talked about? So in terms of setting up in the late game, I think we already answered that question from Psychotic Moose when you were talking about kind of you're poking forward with the Brood Lords at the front and Infestors covering them and Queens just behind that, and your Ultra Ling is kind of only if the Terran YOLOs into you. Does that come forward, or only after you start to pick away at his army with your ranged units and you see the opportunity, does the ground army come in? Anything to add to that, Caleb?
Not really. I would just keep the range or the Queens in range of the Brood Lords in case they go in for the snipes, and then keep the Infestor under the Brood Lords so that if there's a ghost that's being careless or something, you can fungal it and take it out with the Brood Lords. But yeah, it's pretty interesting thing.
All right, cool. Last question to finish up, as we did go way along with these epic games, but I love it because we finally got to talk about late game ZvT, which is cool. Splendor says, is the standard desired economy for Zerg still 3 bases of minerals and 8 gases? I think if you're not like a super high level player, that's like a good rule to follow, is just, but you don't even need the extra gas really. You could probably just play 6 gas, 3 base minerals. But as you get higher, and depending on the situation, you want to adjust. And I'd say the maximum is about probably 85 drones absolute total, but you need to have like a lot of bases very early because your main starts mining out at 8 minutes. Your natural starts mining out at 11 minutes. So like you need like 5 bases very early if you want to do that. And a lot of pro games, like this game, you were at like 60 drones for the majority of this game, right?
Yeah. On a map where it's bigger and there's less, and I'm not as far behind, I'll usually try and get up to 74 drones, and that way I have the gases on my 4th and some mineral maturation, and then I just take bases as as like the minerals mine out or the gas mine out or something like that, and just keep on those 74 drones. But yeah.
Alright guys, and we are going to finish up with one last question. Well, I do say, sorry, a big thank you to you guys for coming on this show. The last question, I keep saying the last question, but I keep saying good other ones, is there any advantage to playing without health bars, or is Avillo just being special for the sake of being special? JHeffe gets that one.
I think it's pretty important to play with health bars.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to know whether or not one parasitic bomb is going to kill your Raven fleet or not. But,
that's actually the big thing. Like, some people play with damaged, and I actually get thrown off because you can't even see full health bars, because it's like the health bar isn't damaged, so I'm not going to show that. And you're like, I don't know. That's just confusing.
I actually play with damage.
I guess you've adapted over a long period of time, because
I tried to see all the spellcasters and stuff. That's the biggest thing for me, like within the army or whatever.
Okay, rather than just having all the bars on top of them. That's smart, actually. Yeah, that's cool. I have trouble seeing widow mines and stuff underneath armies, so that's something I didn't think of. That's cool. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, guys. Let's round it up. Shout outs to Psystorm Gaming, and the Academy team, and both of you guys, JHeffe and Caleb. Can you guys both spam your Twitter and Twitch to me if you haven't already? I'm going to post that stuff in chat. Go ahead and link that in the videos. So guys, go ahead and follow these guys. A massive thank you to both of them for coming on and taking their time to actually do this. So there we go. We've got also Twitch there. So there's both Twitters. You don't stream at all, Caleb?
My Twitch is just the same as my.
Oh, it's the same.
Twitter, just slash CalebAracous.
All right. Just make sure that's all linked for everyone. Awesome. All right, cool. I'll link them all there as well afterwards, so that should be cool. All right, thank you so much for coming on. Any shout-outs, guys? JHeffe?
Hi, Mom. I'm on TV.
Yeah.
But most of all, shout out to Sidestorm Gaming. Shout out to you, Pig. Just appreciate being here today. And that's about it.
Caleb?
Yeah, Psystorm's pretty cool. I don't have much else to shout out to, but yeah.
All right. I'll shout out to Queens. I think Queens are the winner of today. Honestly, great games. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. I do really appreciate it. It was fun for me to actually get to see some ZvT. This is the first time I've ever had ZvT on this show. I've done like a dozen ZVPs, so that was pretty awesome. So thanks, guys. Yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Hopefully have you guys on at another point in the future. Good night, guys.
All right. I would love to.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Night.
Night.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this show. I know it's been a long one. I'm going to split this VOD into multiple parts. If you guys watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hug a cactus, lick a watermelon, and of course, punch a walrus to the moon. Send me in some ICYFAR replays over the next few weeks. I am going to be at BlizzCon, so there's only a few more dailies before I go, and then I'll be gone for about a week and a half, 2 weeks from the daily. But when I come back, I am doing an ICYFAR topic. I cast your freaking awesome replays using the new balance. So whether that's played on the test map or once the new balance comes out after BlizzCon, send me your replays of that. The information is down in the YouTube video below as well as in chat. But that's all for now, guys. I appreciate the support as always. I'll see you all tomorrow for the daily at the normal time. See you guys next time. Goodbye and good night.